Okay, we're into another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff to have a really cool follow-up for you guys from the brand Monbrey. A little about them. They're a watch brand founded by two Hong Kong-based industrial designers, Henry and Austin, with 18 plus years of watch design and development experience. They decided to create this unique brand. While they were hesitant about making another quote unquote new vintage watch, they were kind of caught by the angular aesthetic of the Cybertruck. And so they decided to infuse those retro futuristic angular aesthetics into a wristwatch design language, and the rest is futuristic history. Now, in terms of type of watch, I'd consider this an everyday watch. Some key characteristics and design, which you're looking for something you can wear every day. Of course, you're just going to want that clean, classic, minimalist design, sensibly sized. And yeah, in terms of everyday specifically, this would be an everyday dress watch because there is no loom, and also the more modest sizing. This is from their MB1 RO line. This is the L10, which is the blue dial, and it has their new bracelet. And guys, this thing is a showstopper. A little bit about the MB1. It's a 38.5 millimeter anti-magnetic automatic mechanical watch inspired by the innovative wedge era of designs from the 70s and 80s and the unique technology of today. You can get this for $649 on Bracelet as seen here, and it does come with two leather straps. And if you don't like the bracelet, you can actually get it for less. You can get it for $519 for just the two straps. So very, very cool packaging. And with all that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. Okay, guys, big shout out to Monbrey for sending this out. I really appreciate that. I actually did review initially one of their pre-production prototypes, and I was very, very impressed. So something to get out of the way is the wedge shape, right? A lot of you are seeing this, you're getting a lot of King Seiko 44KS vibes, and that's fine. I mean, that is a beautiful comparable there, but where it differs is going to be the side case profile. And I just want to be very clear that this is a flat surface. I've read in some of the comments on the initial kind of prototype preview is people were saying that it actually angled upwards. It doesn't angle upwards, it's just flat, and then it's just more of a visual kind of trick with the eye because of those bevels, and then of course that case back that protrudes slightly that might make it look like that, but it's actually quite flat. And for some of you guys, I'm losing you right now, but for the rest of you, I will say there's something very special that you cannot capture without having this kind of flat plane, because it enables the tops of the lugs, although they do have a slight turn down there with that bevel, it allows them to actually capture the light in a very different way. And you can see it's well lit across both of those end links, and that's something different that you won't see on a King Seiko because of the downward angle. So in terms of the way that it's going to capture light, it's just a different experience, and for some of you it will be worth it, and for some of you it won't be. But one thing I do want to make very clear here is that this shape was a deliberate choice. I know there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be like, oh, making the case flat, that was an oversight. It wasn't an oversight, it was a deliberate design choice. And if it's for you, cool. If it's not for you, that's cool too. But I will say the quality of this piece really, I mean, guys, oh yeah, what? Did we even talk about this yet? Yes. Quick adjust, toolless, micro adjusting clasp, beautifully signed, beautifully beveled, all milled out, guys, even the buttons themselves. So this thing is a looker. So let's dive into some of the dimensions. 38.5 millimeters in diameter, great size for something like this, although it does have quite an expansive dial, so you're going to get a lot of wrist presence. Also with those lugs and the angle that they're at, it's also going to give you some presence as well. Even with the female end link there, you can see it just kind of speaks to you, and again, it takes advantage of that wedge style design, not by accident, on purpose. So the thickness here is 12.2 millimeters thick and 46.6 millimeters lug to lug, 316L stainless steel, brushed and polished finishes, faceted beautifully all over this. And then of course, quick little piece. You guys probably noticed the case back is blacked out. A little different. We'll get to that. Now, in terms of that thickness, a little bit of that, as you can see, is this beautifully done box domed sapphire, which has a double dome. And you can see it stays relatively legible even at very harsh angles. You're only going to really get that distortion at the very edges of the crystal. So very nice in terms of legibility there. Now, getting into, back into that is something very cool. They have an outer anti-fingerprint coating. So if I was to touch this, look at that. Pretty cool. And I mean, why don't more brands do this? I mean, is there a little bit? Sure, but if I didn't have that, who knows how bad it could look. So quickly, I'll just wipe that off. I don't know. I just thought that was interesting that they're doing a little bit something extra. And you can see that this crystal is beautifully clear. And man, this blue is very vibrant. I know it's on camera because of the opposing light sources. You're probably not catching the full gambit, but let's see that. Look at how dynamic that is. It can be really well lit, or it can be very just high contrast, vibrant blue streak flanked by dark midnight blues, almost tones of black. So very, very cool and playful dial. Really suits the aesthetic. Now, getting into the bezel there, it is all all polished, I should say, contrasting very nicely off of the top brushing. So it has a great effect there and it has a nice pop. Again, adding that extra bit of dimension. Now, the crown, cool enough, is screw down. So I think that's really neat, and it makes you feel a lot more confident in the 5 ATM or 50 meters of water resistance. And some of you would probably have preferred something a little deeper, but with a screw down crown, hey, at the end of the day, guys, you guys aren't going 50 meters. I mean, if you're going to go commercial diving, maybe, but if you're doing recreational diving, 30-40 meters is probably the deepest you'll go anyway. And with screw down crown, you're going to ensure that this crown is intact. So that's pretty much all you need. Like, you could take this under the water because of the screw down crown, even though it doesn't have the ultimate depth rating of something with 100 or 200 meters, which honestly no one is going to actually go that deep unless you're trying to set a world record. Now, getting into the movement, which you can't see, it's a Miyota 9039 no date movement, so there's no ghost position, which is great. It has a 42-hour power reserve, 4 hertz beat rate, or 28,800 vibrations per hour. And inside, it's actually housed with an anti-magnetic Faraday cage with a magnetic resistance up to 4,800 AM. So very nice. And again, it's just it's not necessarily just a stylistic choice, but it's a functional choice to just kind of give you that reminder that what you're working with is something a little bit different. And I dig that. This is a watch that does feel different than a lot of things that are on the market, especially at this price point. So that solid back, of course, with that black PVD coating, definitely gives it a little bit more of a sporty and I guess just a strong kind of purpose-built vibe to it, which is really nice. Now, getting into this blue sunray brushed dial, my goodness. Very, very handsome. Applied indices, multifaceted and multi-finished, guys. This is just, look at that. Breathe it in. These are really immaculate pieces of dial furniture, and they are beautifully accented by this handset. Grand Seiko-like dolphin hands that are multifaceted and multi-finished as well. Very, very clean, and thanks to that Miyota movement and that 4 hertz beat rate, you're going to be getting 8 ticks per second, so beautifully smooth there. Again, 5 atmospheres or 50 meters of water resistance. You're getting 20 millimeter lug width, and this is their new stainless steel H-link bracelet with quick release spring bars. It has a pin and collar construction, and it also features a very nice 20 down to 16 millimeter taper with this milled push button clasp with a 5-position toolless micro adjust, guys. So very cool, and it does ratchet, or of course when you pull it out, you'll have to have it off the wrist, and you just pull that trigger, and then you can ratchet it back in to whatever size you want. I like to kind of set these to where it'll fit on the wrist as tightly as possible and without being overly tight, and then I can loosen it as my wrist swells. But speaking of that, let's actually get it on the wrist and see how it wears. Okay guys, as you can see on my 7.5-inch wrist, this wears beautifully well. And yes, my wrist is quite round, so it's not like this big flat wrist that's going to accommodate every long lug width, but man, this thing looks good. Of course, if I get it too close to the camera, you're going to be getting a bit of perspective distortion, so it's going to make it appear much larger than it is. So what I like to do is rest my wrist nice and low here, and then I'll just tighten up the frame so you guys can get a bit of a more detailed view while still keeping a true aspect ratio of just how nicely centered this piece is. And look at that, just a little change in the angle and you can see that dial just comes to life. Look at how bright that blue is, and then the deep blackish blue kind of sectors there, just looking really handsome and refined while still being quite playful and fun. Look at all of these bevels and facets, the way that they're catching and reflecting light in different ways. It is really a sight to see, and I'm here for it, guys. So one thing I did want to mention though is, yeah, this does include these two great straps. Pull out the brown here, also quick release capable. Check that out. We'll just get that to focus. Boom. And these are actually really nice straps. They're quite soft, quite supple. They're not going to need a lot of breaking in. And look at that hardware. My goodness, guys. This is the type of hardware that you get when you pay for a very premium aftermarket strap, or as getting an OEM buckle on a very expensive watch. So very impressed, guys. And they didn't just say, okay, we'll give you two straps and one buckle. Like, they put the buckles on both, and you can see the black, very nice. So black or brown are going to set this off in different ways. Definitely will give it a more dressy appeal, but it's just awesome that they come with this. If you guys want to see this on the straps, definitely check out that initial prototype preview, because it was only available on the strap back then. Here, though, there's actually another bracelet option, which, let me give it a quick little wipe here off camera. And this is a bond clip style bracelet, which is very cool, and it actually has a really wonderful securing mechanism. As you guys can see there, it's push button and it holds, so this isn't just gonna fall out. And I've tried other bond clips, and I will say, as nice and comfortable as they feel, that fear of it coming undone has been an issue. But that's not an issue here. Also, one thing to notice, they went the extra mile and did the quick release pins again. I just think that's awesome. But I love this strap, so like, why would I even take it off of this thing? But hey, while we're here, guys, we'll do this in real time, real quick here. Hopefully really quick, because of course I'm having to reach around through a around a tripod and a camera without. There you go. Boom, boom. Very nice. And while we're here, we can get a closer look. You guys can see even the triggers here on the quick release, very nicely done. Not as cheap as some of the quick release, which, I mean, while still very functional, this level of milling here, kind of turning those little pins into actual switches and levers, I think is really nice. Now, the cool thing about the bond clip style of bracelet is it's very comfortable and pretty infinitely adjustable when you look at it, right? So very cool. So what I'll do is I'll just kind of keep that there. I'll do this. And again, guys, I love this on that H-Link, but it's not for everyone. So hey, you guys might want to make it go a little bit more down the retro road, the retro path, versus that kind of, you know, sportier, kind of more contemporary H-Link with all the angles. Check that out. That looks pretty darn nice. I'm just gonna give it a quick wipe, guys. Sorry about that. I'm getting it real smudgy just because of how nicely finished this is. You're just gonna notice that a little bit more, but check that out. And essentially what you're gonna see here is it's gonna be very very versatile. Check this out. You just stick your hand through, and now we're going to take this piece. It's going to feed. It's going to fold over. Oh, I want to go ahead and, of course, get that nice and tidy. And let's just try this one here. I'm going to try without stretching it because I like to have a little bit of space. Ooh, yes. That is comfortable, guys. Ooh, you know what? I'm digging this. I think the non-tapering bond clip, there's definitely something that adds a certain level of just fun and a bit of a vintage appeal to that. Check that out. I'm digging that. And man, this is, I mean, not that the H-Link was uncomfortable, but this is like especially comfortable. Let me actually dust it off real quick here. Just because even if I wipe it off, sometimes the little towel might leave a little dust on there. Check that out. One thing to note, oh, sorry about that, hit the tripod there. One thing to note is with the quick release spring bar, because it's a straight end, you're going to be able to see that. That might bother some of you. Some of you might think it's cool. It's like a display case back. You're seeing behind the magic. You're seeing behind the spring bar. So, no, I think that looks really great, guys. And it does catch the light in a really, really neat way as well. And you can see drapes very, very nicely, especially for those of you that might be worried about that flatter profile. So, with that said, although there's no loom on here, we can still do some low light transition and closing thoughts. Okay, now before we hit the lights, check out this packaging as the background, the box. Just swipe my hands in and out of there. It already gives it a little bit of light play. So again, there's no loom, so we'll go ahead and hit the lights here. So we'll keep this little light. Ooh, check that out. The packaging, again, very cool, kind of prismatic, but look at that dial. One thing I always like to work in is a bit of low light transition because you're always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of times you're going to find yourself coming in and out of buildings, walking underneath overhangs, or just hanging out underneath the shade of a tree. So it is nice to see what these colors, textures, and finishes render like in less than optimal lighting. To include a little bit of harsh lighting that typically could expose any types of production defects. But all you're going to see here is a really nice uniform flow of light over that beautiful flat brushing. Just fantastic. Wow. That dial also, you can see how dynamic it can be here with that little slice of indigo blue flanked by midnight. Then you get here, it starts absorbing, gets wider, that bandwidth expands. Now you're getting more of a split quadrant. Big thick slices of pie there, guys. My goodness, that looks fantastic. And of course, it's really fun to see that over this background, which also plays with the light, which you know how much us watch idiot savants enjoy playing with the light. This is very, very cool, guys. I'm digging it so much. And I'm really glad that they made a bracelet option for this piece. So MB1, this thing is sweet. Or so I'm sorry, MB1, not MB1, it's MB1 RO-L10 for the blue. Now, guys, closing thoughts on the wrist. Yes, it does lay flat against the wrist, but does lack that downward sloping lug, which might bother those with smaller or rounder wrists. My wrist is actually pretty round, even though it's on the larger side, and it didn't bother me really at all. Of course, if you focus on certain things, you can create a problem. You can do that. You can make a mountain out of a molehill if you so choose. But if you don't, that you're probably going to enjoy watches and life a lot more in general. Now, in terms of model variants, definitely check the site links in the description for current options and availability. They're up to like 10 variations because this is the L10, which means there was an L1 through 9 before this. So a lot of great options that are there if you're interested in different colors, even different case variations. Same case, but in, let's say, maybe a gold coating. So could be very cool. Check out the links. Now, in terms of comparable models, guys, this is much cheaper than any production modern King Seiko. And it's even cheaper than the very impressive Citizen NB1060 line, which I've owned and own still and have really gushed about on the channel. You know, ultimately, this is going to match it in terms of movement and really outclass it in a lot of ways in terms of the fact that it does have a bracelet, a beautiful one, the complexity of the case finishing, the complexity of the hands, the complexity of those indices. The one thing it doesn't have is, yeah, it doesn't have that silver leaf lacquer dial, but man, this thing is sweet, so I can't really hold it against it, and it's still even cheaper than that at these price points, so it's pretty impressive. So bottom line, guys, if you can accept the flat side profile as the deliberate design feature that it is versus seeing it as a design oversight, then you'll absolutely find a whole lot to love here. Monbrey's MB1 series, for me, have really easily slid right into the mix among some of the very best microbrand offerings under $1,000. And that's saying a lot, guys. I've experienced and owned a lot of really great microbrands. Monbrey's up there. Like, they're right up there with stuff you should check out if you want high quality, high value with high design as well. You know, this isn't just an homage to a King Seiko. It is comparable to one. I'd say the overall design aesthetic can be compared to it because they fall within a similar space, but the overall inspirations, of course, after you look at the watch from the side and you really pay attention to how this thing is lit and you know, which facets reflect and whatnot, and the more bold kind of appearance of that more flattened kind of forward look when you're looking at it from the dial on, straight on. I mean, it definitely has a much different personality all of its own. It just, again, happens to look like something that exists that's very good and very, very expensive. And again, I've owned multiple, and I still own kind of what I think is the best King Seiko, at least the best modern one, and it's like expensive. It's like $3,000. This isn't even $1,000. This is less than $650. If you want to get technical with it, you're getting it on bracelet too. So yeah, it's just fantastic. Just let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you like the video, please do a like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.